So I told Bob about this. And he looked and shook his head and he said, "You probably asked for it."
Tape, tripod,
So
and
that's
the adapter for the bottom.
clan. And then there's the Pruden clan. That's Ella, Linder, and Freddie Pruden, and their family. And the one Pruden who was, although there are lots of Prudens here, Linda and Elsie and so on, but Oliver was a very special friend of mine. And Oliver, as you know, died about 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, with brain cancer. He was only 59. It was a real tragedy because everybody loved Oliver. But I'll just tell you a thing or two about Oliver. I was a school teacher, a high school teacher in this school that used to be here, at Western Christian College it was called. And I was very young for a teacher. So I wasn't much older than Oliver. But we were quite good friends. And I think he was only about 6 years younger than me, something like that. But on weekends, whenever I went any place, because he was a cousin, he thought he had the right to sort of order me around. So he would say, "Well, why don't we go to Uncle Carl's for the weekend?" So I would do the drive to Uncle Carl's. And anyway, the things that were memorable about driving to visit Uncle Carl's with Oliver was that he would sit in the front seat, where 3 people could sit in the front seat, and he would play the radio. It was my car, my radio, but he insisted on playing Elvis Presley Blue Suede Shoes. And he'd sit there enjoying this trip while I was and I was his teacher and his elder, but had no influence on whatever. And on the way back from one of these trips, we were going down the highway, and I noticed the cars went faster and faster and faster. And I tried to pull my foot back, but the car kept accelerating, and I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. So finally I looked down, and here Oliver had his foot holding the accelerator. So we were flying down the highway about 80 miles an hour, and I realized what was wrong. I said to Oliver, "Oliver, get your foot off my foot." And he was sort of half asleep. He said, "Why, am I going too fast?" It must be. Oliver was wonderful. Very amusing. Wonderful person. And then I'll tell you a few things about my own family. That's Martha Linder, married Robert Olson, so we're all Olsons by virtue of that. And Roger, who's not here, Roland and me, so I'll say a word or two about Ken.
A little nervous, look
Ken was a pilot.
I can take
Ken was a pilot, and everybody thinks he took flying lessons with the Air Force. But I want to tell you his flying lessons began much earlier, when he was about 15. I was about, I suppose, 9 or 10. Anyway, the flying lessons had a humble beginning, but he was very innovative, was my brother Ken. Very clever fellow. You wouldn't know it too well. But we lived on the farm at that time, and we had a wood pile in the middle of the yard. And so Ken, who had been studying physics, realized that if you put a rope on the back of a horse and galloped the horse around this wood pile, you'd have a terrific speed at the circumference of this circle, and you'd have a good deal of centrifugal force business. So he inducted all of his younger brothers to do the job of taking the horse and running the horse while he got at the end of the rope with his skis. Then it wasn't enough to just have, you can imagine the velocity you gave him. It wasn't enough to do that. He was going to have his first flying lesson. So he took a chicken house. They used to build brooder houses for chickens like this. And he mounted snow up at one end of it, and so this thing was a nice launch. If we had been clever, we would have eyed down this ramp, and we would have seen that that's a chicken house down there. So, away came the day, and the horse began to gallop around this ring, and slap out the rope, and he pulled out into the edge of the circle, and he attained an amazing velocity. It's called, what is the lift-off velocity for a satellite? What's it called?
critical.
Critical velocity. He was very near critical velocity. when he suddenly remembered the chicken house. And launched. Even the horse came to a halt. And watched this catapult go for that chicken house at about 100 miles an hour. About this high off the ground. Well, it didn't do any harm other than it added one door to the chicken house. So that's when he took his flying lesson. Roger's not here, but if I were to tell anything about Roger, I'll just tell why the rest of us brothers were rather vicious and malicious to Roger. And it was because Roger was such a good kid. He made the rest of us look like a bunch of wild men. We were very nice, actually. In comparison to Roger, we just looked terrible. Owen and I particularly always had a little resentment. But he was well liked by everybody else, I must say. And continues to be. And then I'll tell you something about Roland and Lois.
I'll go first.
There are many things I could tell you about Roland and Lois, but the one I remember was that one day when Roland was still a very young man, he came to me and he said, I'm going to get married. I'm going to marry Lois. And I thought, Lois was a very nice person, but I said, oh my goodness, he doesn't know anything about sex. How can he possibly marry a woman and he doesn't even know anything about girls? And the reason I thought that was I attended Christian school. So I knew everything about sex. So everything. Between Bible classes, we talked about sex. So I knew all about it. So I said to Roland, Roland, you can't get married. You don't know anything about girls. And he said, oh, yes, I do. And I said, well, you didn't go to a Christian school. How would you know about things like that? He said, Lois told me. Whatever he told me seemed to have been pretty appropriate because they have a wonderful family. And look what they've posted for us today. On behalf of all of us, we say, Lois, Roland. To us, it's absolutely wonderful that you've met. It's absolutely unimaginable and absolutely wonderful. So really pleased to be here. Thank you very much.
Weren't you going to hassle Ron a little bit?
Yes,
I'm too young.
I was afraid he would get his too much. He would get even too quick. That might not stop him. Yes, it is.
Well, we've been wanting everybody to come towards us for a long time. So glad we did, and I want to thank Dolores for getting another day.
Yes, it was Dolores who first.
Aren't you Doris and Elaine?
Yes.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, yes. We all miss
We're out there
her.
last